Red Corner Boxing. We're in the game.
Yes, fight fans, welcome to Red Corner Boxing. My name is Mr. Neutral, and with my co-host tonight, I've got Brett the Boxing Man from Canada, and special guests, pro boxers Aston Brown and Dan Garber. But before we get into it, this program is sponsored by EasyStories.com for all your local and nationwide needs, and Boxing Fight Zone, our apparel and merchandise partners. They're in the links in our bio. Check them out, and you may get a discount if you get something. Big up to the chat. We got a couple already. 99 Maddox, what it do? SWS, hi lads. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If anyone's got their background there, could you just turn that down a wee bit? I'm getting a bit of feedback there, guys. Brett the Boxing Man, mate. Let's start off before we bring our guests in. We were talking about a month or 6 weeks ago, something like that, about mental health in boxing, and nobody's talking about it, So we wanted to get something off the ground to actually start getting people to talk. What tell us your goals for this series of mental health Mondays that we're going to run every month on a Monday, first of every month, and what's our goals for this show?
Yeah, I think obviously this came out of a chat of us, just talking about the darker side of boxing when the game's done with you. Where do people go and how do they feel? And when no one's picking up the phone anymore, in the dark places that not only boxers that go to, because a lot of this is going to obviously resonate to people's everyday lives as well. And I think that's what we started off talking about boxing, but we also talked about a community that you and Jams have created, of where you've got 30, 40 guys that talk to you every single day, and we're not to know what's going on in their private lives all the time. But I would imagine that a good part of their day is reaching out and talking to someone in that chat. So one of the main reasons for this is to kind of, we've got two stellar star guests on tonight to give us their insight into their world. But it's just what they all say about mental health is start the conversation. So do we know where it's going to go? Not really. But the most important thing about it is, can we start talking? And if somebody that watches these videos that takes something from it, then we've accomplished all of our goals, mate.
Absolutely. We aim to take away the stigma about men and talking. And that stigma has been around for decades. I remember back when I was a wee boy, and all I heard was man up, man up. And I used to think to myself, excuse me if I use bad language, what the fuck does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody tell me, because at the end of the day, my experience of being a human being is down to my environment, where my parents, what they were doing, how I was built up from a young child. Now, before we get into it and bring Aston in, I want to apologize with a heavy heart for the way we will start this discussion. And with the difficult circumstances of the recent deaths of Ricky Hatton and Arturo Gatti Jr., they're shaking the boxing community to the core. But it's important that we confront this head on, because these moments remind us just how real that struggle is inside the ring and far beyond it. This is Red Corner Boxing presents Mental Health Mondays. And as a special dedicated to the stories, the silence, and the strength that define one of the toughest sports in the world, boxing has always been called the loneliest sport. But loneliness shouldn't mean suffering in silence. Ricky Hatton, a two-weight world champion and one of Britain's most beloved fighters, was open to his struggles with clinical depression, alcohol, and addiction following major career defeats. He'd spoken of suicide attempts and later became a voice of awareness before his tragic passing in September. But he's not alone. Darren Sutherland, an Olympic medalist full of promise, he died by suicide in 2009, less than a year after turning pro. Dean Powell, one of the sport's most respected matchmakers, took his own life in 2013 after a long battle with depression. These names aren't just headlines, they're reminders. Tyson Fury, Jordan Gill, and many others have spoken publicly about their own mental health struggles, proving this isn't about weakness, it's about survival. I spoke to you, Aston, not long ago.
Yeah.
Tonight we're joined by Aston Brown, and hopefully Dan Garber will be back with us, who've lived through these silent rounds themselves. Aston Brown will explore the pressures and isolation that the journey towards healing. Because if boxing teaches us anything, it's that every fight is worth facing, especially the ones you cannot see. Aston, thank you for joining us. Once again, we spoke to you not long ago, and you are very vocal about mental health, and even as far as the measures you have taken yourself in joining institutions that are built for this very purpose. After hearing that intro by me, how hard does that hit you?
Yeah, mate, it's been a tough. Of course, again, I've struggled with mental health issues and addiction problems over the years. You know what I mean? And I still do today. You know what I mean? I'm only a human being. I still have issues and problems. I still need to battle with my addiction every single day to keep it at bay, as I said. You know what I mean, my addiction is, I'll say, doing press ups during the night when I'm sleeping, just waiting to attack me again in the morning. It's an illness, it's a disease I'll live with for the rest of my life, but I know how to treat it today. But for many years, I didn't, and that was due to severe mental health problems, and then using substances to try and fix that. And before you know it, I've realised quickly that I'm an addict. You know what I mean? So I've suffered, as you said, for many years. With mental health problems, and but the boxing community in the world over the last couple of weeks has had some. It's been hard. It's been hard with the passing of Ricky Hatton and Arturo Gatti Jr. I mean, that's hit quite hard over the last few weeks, especially the circumstances. Not I mean, of the passings. But again, as you said, it's very important. It's very important to speak about this stuff, especially in everyday life. But when we're talking about boxing, it's such a masculine sport, if you want to call it. It's such a don't tell anybody anything sport. It's such a keep your problems to yourself and just get on with it sort of sport. And I've felt that for many years. Know what I mean? I always say, and I said it last week when we spoke it. When anybody ever asked me how I was always brand new. That's what we say in Scotland. You're brand new, and I was far from brand new. I was far from brand new. I was suffering in silence, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to reach out and speak to people. So what I done was I used on it. I mean, I used substance on it to make myself feel better. And before you know it, I'm in the path to destruction. My mental health's just got even worse. You know what I mean? And I'm a drug addict as well. So, and that all stems to obviously no reaching out and no speaking to people, you know what I mean, and testing the waters, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good times in my life, and as you said, I ended up being in institutions. You know what I mean? One was a mental health hospital, and one was prison. You know what I mean? But with the grace of God, once I was rock bottom on my knees, as I said before. You know what I mean? There was only one way. So there was two choices. It was either speak to people, get up, Aston, deal with this in life. You know what I mean? Deal with it head on, open up, or it was death. And as I said before, I've got too many things to live for today, too many good things, and I chose to speak out. You know what I mean? reach out, deal with my addiction, you know what I mean, and deal with it head on, and deal with my mental health problems, and open up, most importantly, open up to people, and let people get an insight of what was actually going on in my life, you know what I mean, and there's so many people out there wanting to help, and that's what I always say to people as well, there is so many people out there who want to help, you know what I mean, we're not alone, you know what I mean, but we do think we're alone.
Yeah. How much of a relief was it to you when you finally found that strength to just go, what, do you know, bugger it, I've just got to tell people how it is?
It's strange because I always felt when I went up to people, because they see me as this masculine sports person, I've no problems and I've got the world at my feet and all this stuff. I always thought when I reach out, people are just going to see me as weak. That was my thinking at the time. That was I call it crazy thinking today. That was my thinking. But it was a total opposite. You know what I mean? For many people, it was a total opposite. I mean, so many people got on about me. You know what I mean? And so many people that reached out to had came back to me and said, I've suffered the same, Aston. I've felt the same. You know what I mean? So many people in a similar situation than I was, you know what I mean? But you don't think other people feel like you. And again, that goes for my addiction side of things as well. When I reached out to people who were in maybe the fellowship or in recovery, as they say. I mean, they basically put their arms around me and gave me a big hug and said it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? We'll work through this. We'll get through it. You've got good support. It's good people around about you to support you. You know what I mean? And so that was massively important. But there's so, as I keep saying, and I'll say it over and over and over again, there is so many people out there who are willing to help and who want to help so many kind people.
Thank you, Aston, for that. Brett?
Yeah, obviously, before we go over to Dan, just one quick question for Aston here. So, mate, fair play for opening up like that. I mean, this is exactly what this show is going to be about being okay with being vulnerable.
Can't hear him.
Can you hear me, Mr. Neutral?
Yeah, I can hear you, Brett. But Aston's must have a problem with his hearing you as in. Say it to me. I'll relay it to him.
Just
please,
obviously
Brett.
thanks for him being vulnerable. But then again, the other part of it is when he was down on his breaking point. What was the thing that finally lifted him? Because you can go one way or the other in those moments. What was the thing when he was really on his knees? When he seemed like nothing was going to happen? Did he pick himself up?
Okay. First and foremost, Aston, Brett said, obviously, we apologise for the technical difficulties on this show. It's out of our hands. But Aston, what Brett was saying there, first of all, is thank you for showing your vulnerability and opening up and being honest. And exactly what this show is all about, and getting people like you, pro boxers, people that are in the spotlight, to actually be honest and open up and tell people that it's okay. But he wants to know, at what point did you say to yourself, right, I've got to think outside the box and get extra help?
Yeah. So it was basically when I came home from prison, I'll say, you know what I mean? Because before I went in, I thought things were changing, and then I was in there, I thought things had changed. But when I came out, I realised quickly that things aren't changed as much as I thought they were. I was going back to my old habits and my old ways, you know what I mean, and my old thinking. And I'd done a few things I went and used a few times and stuff like that, and it was just back to the dark, horrible thoughts and feelings, you know what I mean, and that loneliness and that isolation. That's what it took me to. And it took me to the dark places again. And I quickly realised something, a switch basically in my head was like, if you don't get help now, you know what I mean, it's over. You know what I mean? It was, and that was my thoughts as well at that time. My thoughts were basically, if I don't get help now, I don't want to live anymore. That was my thoughts. And again, as I've said before, that wasn't a choice for me. You know what I mean? I've got too many good things to live for the day. I've got a beautiful daughter, I've got a beautiful fiance, a beautiful family, you know what I mean? And I've got myself as well. And all the people care about me and stuff. So I really had to I've done a lot of digging down deep in my life and dug deep in the ring and dug deep in training camp and all that stuff, you know what I mean? But this was time to date for Aston, just Aston, no Aston the professional boxer, no Aston,
Yeah.
just date for Aston, date for yourself.
Aston,
Because
the human. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, mate. Just a human being, you know what I mean? Just do it for you. I couldn't do it for my partner or do it for my daughter or do it for my mum and dad. I had to want to do it for myself because I've tried all that stuff before. I mean, I've tried to stop using drugs just to get people off my back or change my ways just to get people off my back and stuff like that. But I had to want to do it for me. And in that final time, I did. I dug deep and I really wanted to do it for me and I wanted to change. Because as I said before, it was that or it was death for Aston Brown. You know what I mean? It was that was the where my head was at, where my mental health was at, and where my using was taking me to. So I dug deep, mate. You know what I mean? And I reached out and I got the help I needed. I got a solid team of people running about me, and well, I got a solid person running about me, my sponsor, and he worked with me day in, day out, week in, week out, and until we got it, mate. You know what I mean? And my life started changing very quickly over a period of months. I had no thoughts of drinking, using, no suicidal thoughts anymore, nothing like that. Because I used to get suicidal thoughts quite a lot. You know what I mean? Of like, this is if this is all it's going to be, then I don't want this anymore. And to me, that's no normal thinking. You know what I mean? That's not the normal Aston Brown thinking. That is thinking. That's mental health problem thinking. That is drug use thinking. That's drug addiction. That's addiction. You know what I mean? For me. So I had to cheat quickly. That way of thinking changed. You know what I mean? I could start to see a bit of the light at the end of the tunnel, if you want to say. You know what I mean? I could see my life. I could see colour in the sky. I always say I could start to see colour again. When my life started to get better and I could see the grass was green, the tree, not I mean, the sky was blue, I could see my life becoming a bit more bright, if you want to call it, know what I mean? Because I lived in a grey cloud for so many years and this was unknown to a lot of people, know what I mean? But no, it's not, know what I mean? And I'm grateful for that, know what I mean? I'm grateful. I've been through a lot of challenges, know what I mean, through addiction and through mental health and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, the digging deep side and the side, obviously me coming through all the struggles and stuff like that, it's made me the man of the day, you know what I mean? It's really has made me the man of the day because I can help others. And I think that's massively important. It's massively important that in my life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Again, once we have to apologise to the audience, we are having technical issues. We're trying to get Dan back in into the chat. Brett, I hope you know. Obviously,
I think Aston
Aston
can hear
can't
me
hear
now.
you at this
Can you hear me
moment. So
now,
what
Aston?
we do?
Jam
Can you
seems
hear?
to think.
Can you hear Brett, Aston?
No, mate. Still getting enough.
Oh, bloody hell!
Here's Dan.
Right. Well, let's let's bring in Dan. You know, joining us tonight. You know, Dan, a seasoned fighter. You're a mentor and a student of the game. You not only spent years competing, but you've been helping young boxers navigate the pressures as well. Um,
Yeah.
After that intro, Dan, how did the recent news of Ricky's passing and other notable deaths over the years is it ever been a problem, a factor in your life?
I mean, the thing with Ricky, I mean that hit me quite hard. I've actually.
Can't hear that either, man.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you, Dan.
I can hear Aston. I can hear you, mate. Aston. There must be something wrong with the connection. Can you pop out and come back in, please, Aston?
Alright,
Is
let's
that
do that,
okay?
mate. Yeah.
Can you?
Thank you, mate. Danny, you there?
I'm here. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, carry on what you were saying, mate.
Yeah, I was saying.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah,
with
bro.
what happened with Ricky, that hit me quite hard. Obviously, I've met Ricky quite a number of times, and he was an infectious person. You know, when you met him, he was the life and soul of everything, and he always had them demons. But it seemed like you were on the right track. You were getting better. There were signs that this was going to happen. You know, he just signed up to have the fight, I think, in Dubai, etc., and things like that. And he seemed like he turned a corner. You know, his gym were going well, things like that. His family life, everything was going well for him in that sense. They were back together, and when it happened, it was just out of the blue, and it just showed you like what Aston touched on. Then you've got to have them people around you who you can go and talk to, and that's especially in sports, in professional sports as well, because there's so much pressure on people, and once the limelight stops on people, and then they're going into a normal day-to-day life. That's the thing with boxing. Once you stop, they don't have people helping you in day-to-day life. It's not like with footballers and stuff like that. They have pension funds set up and things like that. They don't have that for boxers or all like that. You know, once the phone stops ringing and the limelight stops, people get lost and they don't know what to do with themselves. And that's why you need that kind of team and advisors and things around you in order to, when it does stop, in order to progress in life with what you want to do further.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Dan. Brett, obviously with boxing being a niche sport, not like the other mainstream sports where even soccer or football, as we know it, at this side of the pond, where footballers or sportsmen they've never thought about life after that sport, and boxing is no different. And it has been for decades. Is this the time now for the British Boxing Board of Control, down to other sanctioning bodies around the world, to actually start putting their money in their pocket and getting some funding for helping boxers life after the sport has finished with them?
Yeah, I'll come to that. But similar to what both you and Dan just said there about the differences with other sports like football, is that boxing's a lonely sport because it's a combat sport. It's a 1v1 sport. And you imagine winning when you knock someone out or you win a fight that you weren't supposed to win. It's like scoring at the World Cup final, and it's that euphoric feeling. And walking back to the dressing room, and your family and friends are there. But also, these boys will tell you that there's very often people's careers when they walk back to the changing room and it's just their wife and kids there. You know, it can be a lonely place, and that to someone's mental health, to someone's psyche, because what you're going to do is when that's gone from your life, you're going to be craving in that euphoric moment, and you can never drag it back. So then it's almost like you've got to be disciplined when you come out of boxing to find something, golfing, whatever, like, or being a speaker, something that keeps you going. Because Dan touched upon it. The scary thing about Ricky was, we were led to believe, we're seeing interviews all the time, that he was speaking to people. He was a mental health advocate. All the Hatton family were talking again. He was invested in his nephews' careers and young boxing careers. And it was seemingly like he had that fight on the go. He was in training, because they always talk about being in training can keep you. And then all of a sudden, something's still not right. And like you say, ultimately it comes down to the British Board of Boxing Control. They need to look into this more seriously as to what, maybe there's a trust fund, maybe there's more charities that specifically deal with after the bell. That's what we want to see. How are these fighters being brought back together, being sat in conventions and dinners, getting them back together, speaking together, something. How are you doing with your life? Because I'm pretty sure that the lads will say there are people that they can go to. But the highlight of your career, there's hundreds of people. It's what you retain at the end of it.
Yeah.
100%.
Did you hear that, Aston?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, man. I agree with it. I agree with it all, man. Honestly, you're so right.
Yeah. I spoke to a guy called, do you remember Glenn Catley? He was WBC champion 90s. And what I was suffering really, really bad at one. It was before I went to Ireland to box Tom Carty. I was suffering with anxiety, and I had a lot of issues going on at home and things like that. And I'd seen Glenn had set up his own, but Glenn Catley had set up a business. He got into basically counselling and sports hypnosis for people. And I sent him a message, obviously, because he'd had experience. He obviously was a boxer himself, and I was telling him about the issues that I'd had and things like that. And what he told me to do, he put me in touch with. He did it himself. It was a sports hypnotherapist, and who I went to see, and it helps with. And basically, I told him what the issues were and things like that. They're trained counsellors as well, these kind of people, and he helped with the anxiety that I were having and things like that, and it helped me. It was a massive turning point for me, because when I went over to Ireland, I had a hotel for the week, and it was the first time I'd been away from kids and that for a while, and like I said, I had a lot of issues going on at home, and in front of the cameras I were fine, you know, when I were doing stuff, interviews, things like that. But when you put me in the hotel room on my own, I were my own worst enemy. Then I get inside my own head.
Yeah.
On fight night, I actually pulled out of the fight. Not many people knew. I said to my manager, I said, I'm booking the flight home. I said, I'm going home. I'm not fighting. My head had really gone on fight night, and I rung he was called Adam, the guy who were doing the hypnosis and things like that for me, and the psychology side of stuff, and I rung him up, and he told me to go to my room. I remember it was an hour before we were getting picked up to go to the venue, and we had a chat for 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, he put me under on the phone. Actually, on the phone, he'd put me under. And when I came round, I felt like Lennox Lewis when I'd come round.
Mm-hmm.
It's the weirdest, strangest feeling ever. And I was ready to fight then.
Yeah.
Forgot about all my issues and stuff like that. Went to the fight and stuff. And I remember they were doing a behind-the-scenes footage of the week for the build-up kind of thing. And they were doing interviews with people, and it's all on the internet. And I remember after the fight, obviously I got stopped in 8th round, and I were in tears. And the show on the video, my dad giving me a hug. And I've gone back to my dressing room, and it's just me and my trainer. You know, I brought everybody with me. There were no one else there. It was just me and my trainer. And it's all on video. They put it on the fight night footage, and they were just saying how lonely sport boxing is, because it's just me in tears with my trainer, just in the changing room, you know, nobody else there.
Now, you say that, Dan, and that leads me into my next statement about that picture you've just given us there is so powerful in the fact that if a group of men were to see that, you don't know what the response would be.
No.
And you think to yourself, how vulnerable did you feel at that time about having that first conversation? That's a question from Jams and my producer there.
Is that to myself?
Yeah.
What was the question? Sorry.
How did it make you feel vulnerable when being a fighting man, and you know that first conversation that you had with your therapist?
100% it did, yeah. So I remember I had that much stuff going on at home, and my head was a total mess. And I spoke to my manager and about it, Glenn. I didn't want to really go into it with people, but I spoke to him, and that's when he mentioned about Glenn Catley. So I sent Glenn a message, and he put me in touch with this guy in Leeds who did this hypnotherapy, but he also like a trained counsellor as well. And I was going to see him for 6 weeks. I was going to 2 sessions a week, and it was the best thing I ever did, to be honest with you.
Great stuff. Brett?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask the lads a question. Given the circumstances that we've seen recently with Ricky and Arturo Gatti Jr., and it being more broadly around the world now about how lonely a place boxing can be when people are finished, or just the demons that they get from the sport. Do you think now the world will highlight more upon this, and therefore some of the people in the bodies will start to do more? Because obviously, you know, Ricky's legacy as a fighter will live on forever. but wouldn't it be great if Ricky's legacy also led to something super special to look after fighters when they're done? And I think that this is again the direction that we want to go with this show, is to open up those lights of like what else can be done, and can we use Ricky in a positive light?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you're bang on with that one there, and I really hope it does. You know what I mean? Again, it shouldn't just be any a famous world champion fighter that does this. You know what I mean? But if Ricky's obviously passing can really push that forward, it should be noticed all over. You know what I mean? Because there's so many fighters, even younger fighters. You know what I mean? Who struggle, but because they're not in the limelight, because they're not spoke about as much. You know what I mean? But again, the passing of the great Ricky Hatton, know what I mean, might shine a light on this, know what I mean, and get the board and stuff like that, and the governing bodies to actually step up and go like that, no, and use Ricky, know what I mean, and go, we're gonna do something to help all the fighters, know what I mean, because I believe there is so many more fighters who retire for the game and struggle and suffer in silence, basically, you know what I mean, or suffering behind closed doors, you know what I mean, really, really badly. I believe that massively, because as we spoke about before, it's an amazing sport, but the highs are so fucking high and the lows are so low, you know what I mean? And I don't mean just the lows of losing, you know what I mean? I just mean the lows of retiring, because you never get there. You just spoke about it, you never get the highs again, that same high. I mean, I've experienced it myself, you know what I mean? Obviously having so many highs, I turned professional, and then it's taken away from you for a short period of time, and you chase it. I chased it, and substances was the only thing that came close to even touching it. But that seriously not the right path to go down, know what I mean? Personally, you know what I mean, or sharing that knowledge on the younger fighters, that is not the path to go down with that one. It's just about speaking, because again, as I said, the highs are fucking amazing, but the lows are still low. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you get that first initial adrenaline rush in sport, nothing else matches it. And it's like any drug. Your body starts to get used to it.
Yeah.
You start to tolerate it, and then it's more and more and more, and then it becomes that cycle. But you know, the Ricky Hatton Foundation is up and running. Thank goodness. And again, just to highlight that the Ricky has been the catalyst, especially for this show. I was second. I was second to hear another young man. You know, I'm of a certain age. He's a boy to me, a grandfather, a young grandfather, and he openly talked about his problems, as you have, Aston and Dan. He's openly talked about his addictions. He's openly talked about suicide, and I don't think as a human being at one point who's gone through trauma who hasn't thought about suicide. I think they'd be lying to themselves if they did, because it's a natural human instinct when your brain is under pressure. Simple as that. And and that when I think this day and age, and thank God for the 2020s, because if this had been 20 years ago, 25 years ago, nobody talking about it.
Yeah.
The man up phrase that we all hear would be in full effect, because that's man up for us. I don't want a no pal. You know what I mean? I
If you remember, Mr. Neutral, Mr. Neutral, that's a really good point. What was it, 25 years ago, maybe in 30 years ago, different sport. But Stan Collymore tried to speak out about this, and the world hammered him, saying, why would you have mental health issues? You're earning $5,000 a week to play a sport.
You're a millionaire.
Yeah. So, you know, you're totally right with that statement. It would have been ridiculed, and And I suppose it is sad that it's taken to events like this that we can move on as a world, that we can start going, okay, now we need to start having the conversation. Now we need to start looking into these things, because I suppose the other thing that we haven't touched on with the lads, because we're talking about the euphoric highs, but also I think it's like when you've had a training camp and you go into a fight and you believe you're untouchable and you're ready, and then something goes wrong in the fight. You could have heartbreak in the first couple of rounds. It doesn't go to plan, but your sights were set on a different vision for your family and your life, or a bad refereeing decision that can change the course of the next payday. That in itself must, because you're thinking about taking care of your home, that in itself, the stress that could cause somebody that's
Pressure.
really put that in a combat sport, that's putting their life on the line to make their family's life better, to have it either taken out of their hands or just being facing the fact that they weren't good enough on the night. That taking that home in that lonely dressing room, in that lonely house for the next few days, all you got to do is put your heart out to these people, because they're in the entertainment business. They're entertaining us, but at the end of the day, this changes the course of their lives, and this is why mental health is massive in the sport of boxing.
Definitely,
Yeah,
mate.
absolutely.
There's
Thank you for that, mate.
massive amounts of pressure, you know what I mean, in this game. But people only see the bright lights, you know what I mean, and you walking out, the 90% of the fans, 80% of the fans, that's what they see and that's what they pay to watch. I understand that, but not many people see the lonely nights in the gym, you know what I mean, the dark nights, as you said, you know what I mean, training 2-3 times a day, the massive amounts of pressure, the family pressures, because you only get paid when you fight and stuff like that. And as you said, that this next fight, I need to make sure I win this for the next fight to happen, for the bigger money. So you're always chasing the money, and it's the financial security for your family, for your life, you know what I mean? So you've got all that pressure for your kids, you know what I mean? And it needs to happen, as you said, injuries might come in, a bad decision, whatever it is, and that changes the full course of that. So I feel that, and I feel it for people as well, you know what I mean, that it's happened to. It's hard. It's such a hard sport that so many people don't see what goes on behind it. You know what I mean? And behind the closed doors of it. Just see the bright lights and the shiny gloves and the stars and on the night. You know what I mean? But it's very important. It's good that we're speaking about it today, and it's very important. It should be spoken about so much more.
Yeah, absolutely, Aston. Dan, Brett was saying about the pressure of securing your future. How did that affect you, mate? When you first started boxing?
When I first turned professional, it was all about, it was selling tickets, things like that. You had to. That's a job in itself, and people don't see that. When you're boxing on these small hall shows, you're earning next to nothing. You've got to cover your opponent's wages. You're putting 1,500 quid into a promoter's pot. Then he's taking 50% off you, what's left from the ticket sales. And I was finding I was selling 150 tickets, and I was coming away with 800 quid, and then having to pay my manager, my trainer. And I was thinking, what is going on here? Do you know? And then you're just waiting for a chance. And obviously, when I got the opportunity to fight on that Eddie Hearn show, that's when I stopped working, because the money were good, and they'd give me a contract at the time. Obviously, if I'd won, what I was supposed to fight, basically, I had to give him a rematch, and I had to fight Johnny Fisher as well. That's what it said in the contract. Obviously, I lost, but even though I lost, I'd got bigger fights off the back of that, which paid really, really well. But
yeah,
the downside of it is, when you go full time in boxing, you're relying on sponsors. Like Aston touched on it. If a fight falls through and you're in a training camp for 6-7 weeks, and that's happened to me before. I've had TV. I was supposed to box at Cardiff Arena against Moses Jolly in last year, 2024, and the board pulled my medical up on fight week, so we're all set to fight. You're getting a 5-figure purse, etc. And the board pulled my medical up on the week of the fight and said there was an issue with my medical. 4 weeks later, the medical was sound. There was nothing wrong with it at all. But they pulled me from the fight. I'd had that training camp and lost out on the money.
That is a mad. So they pulled you out on a
Pulled me out on the fight. They pulled me out on the. I was supposed to fight Moses on the Jolly on the Saturday night at Cardiff Arena. They pulled me out on the Tuesday. 4 days.
That's so bad. That's so bad. And then
then week, like I say, 4 to 5 weeks later, cleared me to box.
Yeah, incredible. Aston, how much of a worry is it off the back of that? What we're talking about is that when a fight is made for you, how much is of it a worry is it that at some point this fight may collapse?
Yeah, mate, it can be a worry, definitely. I think it's a worry to any boxer when they get 11 to 12 weeks notice, say, on a fight and they need to start a training camp. It's in your head. Is this fight going to go ahead? Is your opponent going to get injured? Are you going to... All these things play in your mind, you know what I mean? But that's a worry straight away, but the fans and everybody else don't ever think of that. They just think the fight's happening, you know what I mean? And that's it. But in your head... I mean, Darren knows this as well. In your head, you're thinking, better get through this training camp unscathed, hope the opponent gets through unscathed, and I hope this fight happens. Because, again, as Dan said, you can go right up until the final bell, basically, almost ready to fight, and anything can happen fight week. Opponent doesn't make the check win, somebody gets a cut, and that's the money's off the table, and you don't, nobody turns around and goes like that, there's your wages then, at least. You know what I mean? That's it. The fight's over. You just need to wait for another shot.
I mean, you've got, like he says then as well, yeah, injuries play a part. I mean,
yeah.
I dislocated my knee when I got the Tom Carty fight. Dislocated my knee 7 weeks before the fight, and obviously got my knee. I'd done it before, but I got my knee back into place, and I had to do a lot. I couldn't do any road work. I had to do swimming. Luckily, on fight night, my knee held up, but I had to go through with the fight because I needed the money. But yeah, people don't take into account things like that, injuries, what can happen and stuff. And we're not in positions like the guys who are at the top, and they've already made the money. We're relying on that money because the money that when you go out full time and you're getting money for these kind of fights, you've got mortgages to pay, got 3 kids at home, etc. You need it for the bills basically. So it's your livelihood.
Just listening to you both speak there, that again hits home about the mental turmoil on your brains in this sport. You literally, Aston was talking about, I've got 10 weeks to prepare, right? I'm going to get myself in good nick. But then at night when you're sitting in your bed, you're thinking, are they going to pull out? Is there going to be a cut? And then you're the same, Dan, where it's like, I've got a knee injury here. I'm not at my best. There's not a chance I'm at my best. But I cannot pull out of this fight because I need the money. Because and that mental strain on you guys' brain is insane. It's absolutely insane. It's like Jay said.
I know a lot of people who say it as well. When I boxed as an amateur, I loved it because it was just about the sport and the competing. You'd get a call, you're boxing a 3-rounder in 3 or 4 days. You're always in gym. You're ready to just go box. It was just a bit of fun. Professional boxing is totally different to amateur boxing. It's a dirty prostitution game.
Yeah.
It's
just a business, isn't it, Dan?
100%, it's a business. That's all it is. And I'll be honest, I don't enjoy it like I did the amateur side of it at all. It's an horrible game to be in. I've just applied for my manager's license and I've just signed my first fighter, and I wanted to do that because I've seen firsthand how bad some fighters get mismanaged and manipulated and things like that, and what it can do to them. Guys I know British people who have been British champions and things like that. Even world champions, and they ain't got any money at all. They're retired. They ain't got a thing. They've got nothing at all because they ain't got that people to advise them and things like that. And they've got a massive group of friends, and you'll see it firsthand yourself. You're on these big shows and stuff. Everybody wants to be your mate, but after the fight, you find out who your true mates are.
Yeah.
No laugh. Brett?
Yeah, again, this show is already lighting it up with exactly what our thoughts are around, because what it's doing, it's educating. If it's not resonating with people from various different walks of life, it's generally getting to the bottom of what goes on in boxing. And and like they're saying, you can be one of the very, very top boys that can just pull out of fights, because it's not, and very often, I suppose, depending on who they're with, they'll probably take care of them if they have to pull out of training camps as well. Whereas they've got somebody taking care of that all the time. Whereas, from what you guys have said today, the fact that you have to go through that, and it's very interesting that Dan's falling out of love with the sport, and you hear that too, where it's, I don't love it like I used to, and I don't know that. Obviously, Dan, it's great that you're talking about putting back in now and showing some people and guiding some people because of the experiences that you've had. But do you even watch much boxing anymore, Dan? Has it got to that point where it's turned you away from it, or are you still in love with it to still watch it enough?
From a fan point of view, I still watch it, and I'll go to the shows and things like that. I even go to a lot of amateur shows. I still love the amateur side of it, I mean, I train my three boys have all started training, especially the two younger ones. So I'm training them, my nephew, and I do still, from a fan, I still love it. But the business side of it, not at all. It's awful. I mean, I've been lucky enough, even from the 6 fights that I've had on TV, I've been lucky enough to put my money away of what I've earned from that, because I had a trade to fall back on, or a gas engineer, so I could always make money doing that as well. And I put my money aside to get another property with, and that was my goal from boxing. If I could get another house out of boxing, that's all I wanted from it, and I've done that now. But it's like now, if I get fights offered now, I don't even ask who it is. It's just how much are you paying. That's all it comes down to now. It's just numbers that they're paying. I'm not bothered who it is, where it is, when it is. It's just what are you paying, and that's all it comes down to now.
So would you both say, obviously with these setbacks, and we're talking about the strain on the brain, what it obviously, you're both looking to always get in there and win, have your hand raised at the end of the fight. But whilst doing this right now, and the business of what we talked about and the ups and downs, does the motivation seriously come down to, I just need to get as much money and get paid and get out, or is it a case of you're still looking at that run that I can go on that run?
I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's all about, it's just money, motivated by the money side of it. That's the love of it has gone. It's not a sport. And when you ask, and he'll know himself, when you're boxing and you're around these people and promoters and managers and things like that, a lot of people are 10% men in boxing. They just want what they can get out of you. Yeah, that's the thing. They're not your friend. They just want to get what they can out of you. Luckily, Glenn, who manages me, I am good friends with him, so I'm lucky in that aspect. But I've seen some guys, I know some managers were taking 25% off fighters, the trainers taking 10%. That's 35% of the money gone straight away. And it's bad what people, they manipulate fighters, and it's bad what people do, and that can play on people's heads. You get a fight purse, and half of it's gone straight away. You're paying other people out, and it's bad what people do.
It is. It's a cutthroat business. Aston, you're on a slightly different trajectory at this moment in time. Your career was interrupted. You've now rebuilt yourself into the Celtic or the Scottish middleweight champion. You've got high targets. Do you still feel that you've got to make as much paper in the time that you have within the sport?
100%, mate. 100%. I've only got a few years left. You know what I mean? And I'm no. I say that. I'm happy to say that as well. You know what I mean? I was fortunate enough to be able to come back into boxing because of my own choice, because I love the sport. But I know what Dan's saying. I know exactly what he's saying about the business and about making money. You know what I mean? It's a good business as well. It's all about getting a good team and about who you trust and fully support. But not everybody's fortunate that way to have that. I'm quite fortunate to have that. So, but again, I'm chasing big fights and titles, but 100% it's all about the money. The money comes in front of that as well. You know what I mean? 100%.
Belts don't pay the bills, do they?
Exactly, mate. You know what I mean? They're nice. See when they're added on to the big fights and the belts are there and that. But you're always going like, aye, but what's the money? You know what I mean? So
Aye.
because this is a short career. I always say this to people. It's not like you retire for this job when you're 70 and you've lived a full life and you go like this. You retire for this job. Most guys in their 30s. You know what I mean? Their late 30s if they're lucky. That's a short career. You've got a lot of life to live after that. So you need to get as much money from it, and as Dan said, and then invest it, either it'll be into property or other business. You know what I mean? And then live life after that. So no, it's a money game, mate. It's a money game. The titles are nice. The titles were very nice, and I want to win many of them. But it's a money game.
Yeah, they look good in the glass cabinets years
Aye.
later, don't they?
But as Dan said,
yeah.
you can't eat them and they don't pay the bills.
I mean,
That's
you only
right,
have to
mate.
look at
That
you
is
only have
right.
to look at Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn.
Mhm.
Prime
Yeah.
example. Conor Benn could have gone and fought for a world title, I think, against that Barrios in America. Eubank Jr. were on the verge of it. But like Eubank Jr., he's even said it. He could go get £1 million to fight as a challenger for a world title. He's getting 10 million to fight an easy guy like Conor Benn. And he's done that twice. And I don't blame them guys at the end of the day.
Man.
I mean, Chris Eubank, you look at, he gets a lot of stick for it, but he's been a British champion. He's challenged for a world title, and he's won 2 minor world titles.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the money he's made. He's at
and
the end of his career. Yeah.
As you know, Dan, he's probably made more money than most legitimate 100%. World champions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Derek Chisora's another one. He's always said it. Belts don't pay the bills. He's all about the money. He's a prime example.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I want to, before we go, gentlemen, Brett, any last words for our guest tonight?
Well, just first of all, thanks, lads. This has been different class. Really appreciate the vulnerability because we're all learning a lot about the darker side of the game, and obviously that was probably the aim of this show is to kind of start talking about these things. But what I would say is, with that in mind, you've been very open about both of your struggles with life after boxing around the corner and approaching being around the corner. What advice or what steps and strides are you thinking about taking in order to kind of have less of those dark days?
Well, for myself, I've just applied for my manager's license, so that's what I want to get into, managing fighters, because boxing's like a drug. It's so addictive and it's so hard to walk away from. Even though I'm saying here, I don't like professional boxing like I did the amateur side of it. It's hard to still let go of it. So I want to stay in it in some capacity. And it's not about what you know, it's about who you know in boxing. And,
isn't that the truth, brother?
pretty good contacts up myself now. So I've just signed my first fighter in heavyweight who's very, very, very good. Got a great amateur background. We've just got him a deal with GBM Promotions, on the DAZN to show his first.
Oh yeah, is he?
Yeah, that's the one. It's not silly money, but it's all about obviously the audience that he's going to get. He's sponsors stuff get off the back of it. So I'm going to stay in it in that capacity and the management side of things, because I've seen firsthand how bad people are treat fighters, especially. So that's that's my plans anyway.
Yeah, man, I'm the same, mate. I've always been massively invested in this sport. I tried to take boxing at my life one time because again I was sick of it, I was done with it. But again, that was a lot of my own problems, you know what I mean? And it almost killed me. You know what I mean? It almost killed me. And I quickly realised I need this. I need boxing. As Dan said, it's a fucking drug. You know what I mean? It's a full blown drug, this game. So whether once I retire, my intentions lie on going into coaching, passing my knowledge on to young fighters. I actually like to do that at the moment, you know what I mean? I've found a bit of interest in it, so I know for a fact as soon as I hang my gloves up, then I'll be passing the knowledge on to the next generation. And you never know, maybe I could get into the managing side, I don't know, you know what I mean? But first and foremost, coaching for me. But aye, definitely. I don't think I'll ever leave this game.
That's what we love to hear. Well, thank you, gentlemen, all of you. Tonight's conversation wasn't an easy one, but it was an important one. We've heard the truths that say too often hidden behind tape wrestling mouth guards, stories that remind us that courage isn't just about stepping into the ring, it's about speaking when it hurts. Thank you, guys. I'd say this. If tonight's discussion has affected you or you're struggling with your mental health, please reach out to someone. And in the UK, you can contact Mind at 0300 123 3393 or Samaritans at 116 123. The viewers around the world, please find your local mental health support lines. There is always help available. Boxing will always be about heart, grit, and resilience, but it's time we remember the mind is part of that fight too. Let's make talking about mental health as normal as wrapping your hands before a session. For us at Red Corner Boxing, we thank you for joining us. Rest in peace to those who we've lost. Strength to everyone still fighting their battles. And on behalf of myself and Brett, my partner Jams here at Red Corner Boxing, we thank you guys from the bottom of our heart. We will
Thank
see
you,
you
man.
again. Please, keep in contact with us. We will be calling on you both again, no doubt.
Yeah, man. No problem.
Brett, any last words?
No, just absolutely top class, lads, and I tell you that this is what a great kickoff to what we're trying to achieve here. So really, really appreciate it, and I hope the next turn in your careers gives you every bit of success you deserve, boys, because you're the lifeblood of the game. The way that you've talked and conducted yourselves tonight, so thank you so much.
Thank you, my man.
Cheers.
Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Dan,
God bless.
Dan, we hope to see you out soon. And Aston Brown, I want to see you British champion, right?
Yeah, man. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Strength and honour. This has been
Yeah,
Red
man.
Corner Boxing. My name's Mr. Neutral. That gentleman there is the boxing man, my co-host. Thank you so much, sir. We will be back in a month's time for Mental Health Monday. This is the month of November. It's called Movember or Movember, and it's all about mental health well-being in the month of November. Look after yourselves. Stay sharp. Stay ready. Protect yourself at all times.
Yeah.
See you soon.
God bless.
I'm moving. I'm going. I can't stop. I got motion. I'm moving. I'm going. Can't lose focus. I got motion. I'm moving. I'm going.
Red Corner Boxing. We're in the game.